Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor. Let's talk. I want to ask you, what if I told you that unhealed trauma could be the reason that you struggle to create the life of your desire, of your dreams, right? That the divine put your dreams on your heart for a reason to guide you towards your purpose. What if this unhealed trauma that was keeping you from your dreams is not your fault and is not something that you can control through willpower? What if that unhealed block is, or I'm sorry, the unhealed trauma is the block that you have been searching for, but haven't been able to find? If you can relate to that, I can relate to you because I've been there. Imagine that we are like a puzzle, a very complex puzzle that is our life, and we are scattered into countless pieces. Each and every moment represents an experience or a feeling and is in one of those puzzle pieces, right? And some of those pieces are hidden and tucked away underneath the layers of pain and distraction and coping mechanisms. And yet, at the very same time, they are shaping who we are and how we experience life. So in this video, we're going to dive deep into the shadows. We're going to uncover the signs and the secrets of complex trauma or trauma in general. So stay tuned, because by the end, you are not only going to recognize those missing pieces of the puzzle, but you're also going to learn how to put them back together, right? To put yourself back together, healing the puzzle that is you and helping you become whole and complete and finally feel that sense of peace and freedom and value and worth that we have been searching for all along. So if unhealed wounds and trauma are the blocks that we have been searching for, but we cannot seem to find, we have to first start by understanding, what is trauma? What does it look like? And I will give you the 21 symptoms or signs that you have unhealed trauma. We'll get to that in just a minute, but let's just kind of dig into, what does it look like? Because so many people will say, I don't have trauma. And that may or may not be true. Trauma is not necessarily a big incident like a car accident or witnessing a death, but rather sometimes it is just how you experience things. If you felt like I didn't have my needs met, if you didn't feel safe, seen, heard, cared for, or loved for an extended period of time, then you're likely dealing with unhealed trauma. According to what is lovingly referred to as the Pope of Trauma, Gabor Mate, he offers the definition of trauma as being what took place inside of you as a result of what happened outside of you. So many of us hear that we need to choose our thoughts wisely in order to be able to manifest our dreams. But Gabor Mate, in his book, The Myth of Normal, states that before the mind can create the world has created the mind. And that is why it is so difficult for us to choose our thoughts. Unhealed wounds and trauma amplify the monkey mind, the hamster wheel that just keeps going round and round, trying to solve the problems, but rarely ever makes much progress, can feel more like rumination and is a very common trauma response. Have you ever struggled to stop thinking about the mistake you made the other day or how you responded to a friend that betrayed you, and you keep going over and over, replaying the conversation, thinking of new ways that you would have liked to have responded? Or maybe you continue to think about the past and how you made these mistakes years and years and years ago, and they seem to haunt you. Trying to stop these thoughts with willpower alone will not work, because trauma changes the brain. The entire brain is different in a person who has experienced trauma or complex trauma. You could even call it the conditioning and the programming of the world today. That is really the general theme of the book. The Myth of Normal is how our society collectively, globally, is changing the brain in the same way that trauma would. So whether or not you identify as having trauma, you may be exhibiting some of these trauma responses, which we're about to go through. And what this tells us is that the same healing therapies that work for people who've experienced trauma will also work for you, right? We want to notice that brain that is changed, that is exhibiting some of these responses, is overcompensating, and it's causing you to suffer. These thoughts and these habits, these trauma responses are the source of suffering. They are the blocks that have been hiding from you. They prevent you from your purpose and stepping into the life of your dreams. So again, to quote Gabor Mate one more time, he states that trauma is a disconnection from the true self, and it is a distortion and a limitation of who you were born to be. This is why we struggle to trust ourselves or to step into our purpose. So how do you know? What are the 21 signs? How do you know if you have unhealed trauma? Well, first and foremost, somatic flashbacks are a hallmark of unhealed trauma. Somatic flashbacks are more like a physical response in the body that is reminiscent of something in the past instead of a visual. I remember when I was first studying trauma, I felt like I don't have flashbacks. But notice anytime you're triggered, your body responds. That is a somatic flashback. Maybe someone calls your name just like your father used to mock you, and that feeling of fear and flash of anger, and your palms get sweaty and your heart races. Maybe your stomach turns over and you feel sick to your stomach. And then it drains all of your energy and you feel fatigued and overwhelmed and you just want to recoil and go inside. All you want to do is maybe take a nap or numb out on social media, maybe even a glass of wine or your favorite coping mechanism. That is what a somatic flashback trauma response looks like. All right, disassociation would be number 2. It has a range of ways in showing up, and it can be very sneaky. The brain doesn't want you to understand that it's trying to keep you from seeing the very thing that will help heal you. Many of us will detach from our body in various ways. A lot of us in this community, we love meditation, we love astral travel, we love focusing on the positive, anything that helps us avoid the pain. Things like alcohol, shopping, sex addiction, social media addiction, they help us numb out and disassociate. Number 3 is avoidance, very similar to disassociation, but we tend to avoid people, places, and things that are triggering or seemingly cause us additional pain. Some of us will rush from work to sports to shopping to the gym, and then we just crash at night. There's no space in between. The need to constantly be busy and help other people or somehow avoid our feelings, loud music, flashy TVs. Notice how the society facilitates our avoidance and distraction. It is the hallmark of a traumatized culture. And for some reason, it doesn't usually work. So we just have to keep doing it. There is no avoiding what will eventually cause us to break down if we continue to try to ignore it, right? Others of us will find it difficult to even sit still while on vacation. Many will end up working or going home early or even isolating while on vacation because the vacation itself is so triggering. So then we try to avoid the situation we've put ourselves in. Of course, we always have to come up with a good reason why. So maybe it'll look like you're sick or you're tired or, this pressing work thing is calling me. So I just have to work on it right now. Again, the brain is very deceptive, wanting you to look away, right? Many of us will feel tired and overwhelmed when we're trying to move towards our goals outside our comfort zone. But then that feeling of fatigue or overwhelm is the excuse. And it's also a traumatized nervous system that just can't handle what you're trying to move towards. It doesn't feel safe. For example, when I want to step into my purpose and start my own business, maybe I use the excuse of, I don't know how to coach, or I don't know how to build a website, or I don't know how to set up online scheduling systems. So then we will try to blame the lack of knowledge or experience for the issue when really the nervous system has just said that's too much. It is the glass ceiling that keeps us from moving towards our dreams. Hypervigilance, another very, very common trauma response. We're always on alert, waiting for the next shoe to drop. Maybe we have a heightened startle reflex. I will jump sometimes at the mere fact that someone has just walked into the room or maybe touched me without warning, right? Other times it'll look like rushing around when there's no real reason to hurry. We become addicted to the adrenaline of the hypervigilance. It literally is an addiction. Maybe we're always on guard, tense in our bodies, holding a lot of tension in our shoulders and our arms to the point of pain, making decisions quickly without considering all of the available information, responding without actually thinking about what has been said to you, and then not even ever contemplating the response. I'm sure you'll even notice this tendency. And then after a second of thinking about it, you'll say, wait, I didn't mean to say yes. I should have said no to that, right? That's part of the hypervigilance. High sensitivity. Many of us will identify as an empath, and that ability to be sensitive to the other is designed by or driven by the initial feeling of unsafety. The volatility in our environment caused us to feel like I have to always figure out who's here and who do I need to be in this place to stay safe. So that sense of being able to feel the room, or you can read a person easily and know what they want or need or feel or what they're missing or who they want you to be. Right. And that leads into masking. We call it adaptability. I can be like a chameleon. I can be anything I need to be in any situation. I can blend in with different groups. I can blend in with the popular group, and I can blend in with the artsy group, right? That feeling of understanding everyone else before your own needs causes us, 1, to suppress who we are, 2, to wear a mask, and 3, to lose access to who we authentically are designed to be before the world changes us. Maybe you adapt easily to others and you keep them happy, also verging on people pleasing. A couple of things I didn't put on the list, which is kind of crazy because people pleasing and overgiving, those are your 2 bonuses, right? Maybe you lose yourself in others because of that ability to be so adept, right? Maybe you struggle to understand, what are your dreams? What are your desires? Who is the authentic you? Number 7, hyper independent. We tend to pride ourselves on our hyper independence. I don't need anyone for anything. I can take care of everything all on my own. Hyper masculine, which is not necessarily a good thing, especially for us who identify in the feminine. Right. But we claim to like it that way because it makes us feel a little bit more safe. It makes us feel a little bit more valuable. It feels a little bit more self-sufficient, right? Safety really is at the crux of all of this. And you claim to like it that way because but at the same time, you secretly wish somebody would show up for you and take care of you and love you unconditionally without your having to ask for it. So you can notice the dichotomy there. Number 8, isolation. Isolation, the bane of the existence of the light worker right now. Isolation. We are the hidden seekers. We are cutting ourselves off from friends and family who trigger us, but then we also feel lonely and wish that we had more loving connection. We avoid social gatherings because it feels too draining. But then, of course, had we gone, we would have enjoyed it and we would have been glad we did. And maybe if we didn't go, then we often regret not going after the fact, right? We're struggling to find or maintain intimate relationships, either because those relationships are too triggering, maybe they're exhausting, or the other person's the problem, right? And I just can't find any of the good ones. Where'd all the good men go? Or where'd all the good women go? Or where's my spiritual family? And we write off everyone else because because of us, because we are not able to handle. We are not able to keep ourselves safe. We have low distress tolerance. We are not able to manage our own energy. And all of this is possible. I don't want you to feel bad about this, but understand you don't have to isolate to feel safe. You don't have to be exhausted to go out into the world and find love and connection. It is not an either or scenario. Also, another common trauma response that I did not list here, bonus number 3, black and white thinking. We won't go into that. I think that's pretty clear. Number 9, shame. Shame goes hand in hand with trauma. You almost can't have one without the other. You could probably have shame without trauma, maybe, probably not. So they probably go hand in hand. But I did have another Gabor Mate quote for you. Gabor says, self-assaulting shame moonlights as personal responsibility. We have a tendency to take on too much responsibility for how other people feel, responsibility for the trauma that happened to us, responsibility for the people who don't respond in the way that we want them to respond to us. It is also called toxic self-blame. We put ourselves down. We have that obsessive inner critic, a very loud inner critic who is louder than they are. The inner critic is louder for the traumatized person than they are for the untraumatized person, which is very few and far between today. I like to call it the trauma demon because it really helps communicate how difficult this voice can be to deal with. He takes on the voice of your abuser. Somewhere along the way, we decided if I think these bad things about myself first, then I will somehow prevent myself the pain of having to be exposed to something that you're likely going to say about me anyways, right? That rumination comes along with this too, right? Just over processing on what did you do wrong, beating yourself up for how you should have done things differently, and then that feeling of worthlessness and hopelessness that comes along with that, right? We often suppress our needs. Number 10, suppressing our needs as if it were a superpower. I am so good at going without food and sleep and love and all the things, right? Look at me. I can suppress my needs. I can drive myself into the ground longer and harder than anyone else. Now, doesn't that sound a little bit crazy to be proud of that? But until we realize we're doing it, we don't really understand that this thing that we think is a benefit is actually a downfall, right? Things like putting off eating when we're hungry or pushing ourselves way past the point of fatigue. When if we just would stop and take a 20-minute break on the couch, we would feel rejuvenated. Maybe we never have any time for rest and only are on the go all day, every day. And I remember a point in my life where I consciously made that decision that when I'm tired, I'm going to sit down. And that was so foreign. That was when you grow up in an environment that teaches you to suppress your needs, suppress your feelings, suppress your desires, you lose touch with them. You no longer can see how much is too much and how much is too little. And this touches into the addiction that we'll get to in a minute, but we lose our ability to regulate, right? Number 11 is a need for control, right? We are very uncomfortable when we're out of control. We fear being out of control. We are hypervigilant, trying to keep things under control. One has to always feel in their mind that they have some semblance of control, or they freak out, especially when plans change or you're required to be flexible and flow with life. That can be very jarring. The nervous system can get really activated. Maybe even you get upset or angry when things don't go as planned. Maybe planning is taken to excess and you have to constantly prepare for all the various scenarios. I used to always have like 3 plans, plan A, B, and C. Should things go awry, I'm always looking for what could go wrong and what contingency plan do I need to put in place. So I should say I used to do this. I don't do this anymore. I don't allow myself to do that anymore. We always had to have an exit plan or contingency plan. And as an example for me at one point, if I didn't have my own house, I had to have an office rented. I had to have a place where I could go. I had to be able to escape, right? To be safe, right? Number 12 is believing we don't deserve to be happy, right? When good things happen, it can make us feel really uncomfortable. There's that question of, will it last? Is it too good to be true? When will the other shoe drop? Or do I even deserve this? Which subconsciously we will then end up self-sabotaging because it's too uncomfortable. It's too unfamiliar, right? All of this can be healed. I want to jump in and say that because we're a little less or a little more than halfway through the list, and I don't want you to get concerned. There is hope at the end of this tunnel, okay? Number 13, fear of rejection and failure, right? A perfect example is someone who wants to start an online business, knows with our intelligent brain that we have to be seen and heard and known and liked and trusted before anybody can buy from us. We will write that social media post and then never post it, or we'll create the video and never make it go live. We'll never go live, right? We are too afraid of how people might respond to us. Maybe they might not respond at all. Maybe they might question, do I have anything to offer? Is this person really of value? When, I guess, surprise, you have to go live and post like thousands of times before people even begin to see your value and worth, and it has nothing to do with you, but that's topic for another day, right? Or we may also, because of the fear of rejection, failure, we may also spend months in distractions, things like creating a website and dragging our feet on launching it for fear that, when we launch it, it'll be too much for us to handle. Too many people will come. But again, surprise, surprise, it does not happen. If you build it, they will come is not true. You have to market and sell, which again, will trigger your fear of rejection and receiving and all sorts of things, right? Number 14, constant fatigue, never feeling rested, even after a good night's sleep, low stress tolerance and feeling depleted from stressful situations. Again, kind of using those examples earlier. If somebody, calls you a name that your father used to call you, it'll shut your system down and it'll require hours and days and weeks to recover from that. When someone who has healthy distress tolerance, it might be minutes, at most an hour or two. And so, yeah, when we experience something that upsets us, it really puts us in kind of a tailspin and drags us down, maybe into isolation and fatigue again. Number 15, roller coaster of emotions, high highs, low lows. One day you feel great. The next day you feel depressed. People might say you're unpredictable. The smallest thing can ruin your day. You have a really hard time bouncing back from triggers. You have difficulty controlling or processing big emotions. You fear big emotions. You are afraid that they're going to overwhelm you. It's just going to be too much. Right. And that, of course, will create irritability and anxiety because we're avoiding things that are taking up our energy, filling up our cup that we're never really emptying out. It's that constant struggle between anxiety and depression and sadness and hopelessness and emptiness and feeling numb and checking out. Tony Robbins will call it the crazy eight. Maybe we'll get angry and then sad and then angry and then sad. And that's just allowing us to kind of move from these emotions because they're intolerable to stay in for too long, but we don't know how to move through them so that we can move into something more resourceful, more healthy, more enjoyable, happiness, joy, peace, things of that nature. And again, all of this is not your fault. The things that we're covering are, due to the changes in the brain, changes in the nervous system. And again, it can be healed. We are getting there. Number 16, just a few left, poor self-care. Maybe you don't brush your teeth for long periods of time, or you don't shower, or you're not sleeping the proper hours, you're not eating well, you're not exercising. Maybe you don't brush your hair, don't go for a haircut. You don't take the time to put together a nice outfit or clean your shoes when they're dirty. We lose a sense of our own value and worth when we feel that others do not value and love us, and we lose connection, right? Number 17, I did list it. We'll have to take back one of those bonuses. Black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking. Some people hurt me, therefore all people are unsafe. Or I feeling that I am not normal, especially after having the experience of discovering ancient wisdom, so that I no longer engage with anybody because nobody can understand me, or no one understands all the things that I understand. And so we lose the ability to find small connection points that are necessary for connection, even with people who don't understand the ancient wisdom that you understand. Right? We move from one extreme to the next, going all in on a diet or finding a new hobby and buying all the stuff, only to quit and completely give it up just a few days or weeks, maybe at most months later, until we're on to the next thing, right? Number 18, rumination. I feel like we've covered this quite a bit because they all are interconnected, but that mind goes round and round trying to work out what happened, who's to blame, how do I avoid the scenario next time. Often, this is really important, the thoughts, the ruminating thoughts are very self-focused. And again, this is the source of suffering. Those questions of why did they say that to me? Why did they do that to me? Why did they take my XYZ, right? Why did they hurt me? How will I keep myself safe? It is those self-focused thoughts that cause our suffering and are driven by the changes in our traumatized brain. Number 19, we're getting there, 3 left. We have a compulsion to help others, right? It's called rescuing. You may rush around to give people money, maybe the beggar on the corner, or maybe your neighbor asks you to watch a dog, which will keep you up at night, but you still say yes. You feel obligated to say yes. You struggle. You feel very uncomfortable saying no, even though you don't want to, even though it's going to hurt you, right? So that verges on overgiving, people pleasing as well. Our 2 bonuses from earlier. Number 20, addiction. hand in hand with trauma, we have to have some kind of coping mechanism when we have unhealed trauma. So again, it could be alcohol, substances, pills, sex addiction, shopping addiction, social media addiction, pornography, rescuing people, people pleasing, overgiving. All these things can be addictions as well. But notice those go-to things that you have to lean on when the emotion gets too big, it's too hard to process. Right? I use the example of eating an entire sheet cake or a whole box of Girl Scout cookies or needing that fourth or fifth glass of wine when you already feel buzzed, right? And then finally, number 21, ADHD-like symptoms similar to a difficulty in concentrating, difficulty focusing, difficult with memory. Maybe you struggle to be present in a meeting and remember the information that was necessary to complete the project that you had been assigned, or maybe you find it hard to stay focused and jump from one task to the other before you finish a task, right? That could even be just jumping from tab to tab on your computer because the mind, again, is unable to be still, constantly trying to work out these problems that are so difficult for the mind to solve because you cannot heal trauma from the mind. The body keeps the score. So that leads into what I had next. What causes this within us? Trauma happens when there is a flight or fight response opened that is not closed, right? So the symptoms that we just went through, they're coping mechanisms, right? This is designed to try to help us avoid further pain, keep ourselves safe, and try not to deal with the unhealed wounds, which is the problem right there, not dealing with the unhealed wounds, right? Sometimes we still live on the battlefield, as I like to say, we still live in that traumatic environment. And to some degree, those coping mechanisms will be necessary until you can extract yourself from that environment. But once we are no longer in that environment, the brain has a tendency to continue to operate in that, well, the body too, to operate in that same modality, even though we're not there anymore. So that could be tip number one. Start telling yourself, I'm not there anymore. I'm not 7 years old anymore. You are not my father. You are not this traumatic experience, right? This is a different environment and I'm more capable now, right? When we experience trauma, we derive beliefs from that traumatic experience that become our general mode of operation. What that means is our subconscious brain adopts programs or sort of a rule of thumb that becomes our general MO, our mode of operation, right? The nervous system, when it senses, because this nervous system is running all throughout your body, your hair is even an extension of your nervous system. It's out there sensing whether or not I have experienced something similar to this, right? So any experience that is even remotely reminiscent, sometimes it's illogically reminiscent to the mind and the body, it will then have a trauma response, right? So when it senses anything similar, it sounds the alarms again and again and again. You keep feeling like we're here again, we're here again, we're here again. And this is your frequency. This is your vibration. This is what you are attracting. Subconscious thoughts lead to those beliefs, lead to those triggers, lead to the highly sensitized nervous system that responds and says, alarm, alarm, alarm. Hypervigilance, people pleasing, overgiving, self-sacrifice, fawning, all the things that we just went through, right? And this is why they're so difficult to see, is we feel like, hey, I'm trying to manifest this thing and I'm controlling my thoughts and I only have positive thoughts, except you have a subconscious brain, right? Thoughts below conscious awareness are subconscious that are telling you it's not safe to go there. That person's not safe, right? It hides out in our blind spot. That's why we struggle to see it and to find our blocks. This is not something that you can find with your cognitive intelligent brain. It has to come to you from the body. The body will deliver the message, right? And again, all of this acts as that glass ceiling that keeps us from moving towards our purpose, our dreams, our desires, because the brain and the nervous system have deemed whatever changes you desire in your life as unsafe. Safety is the key, right? And this will lead to feeling stuck. So the good news, finally, we get to, you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to live this way anymore. Thank goodness for the discovery of neuroplasticity, because not too long ago, we would have believed we were permanently traumatized forever. But not everyone who has experienced trauma has to stay stuck. We can look at people like Maya Angelou or Nelson Mandela or Eckhart Tolle, right? They experienced trauma, and yet they have gone on to make tremendous contributions to the world. They are no longer held back by their trauma responses. They made significant contributions of service, and it is all regardless of their struggles, right? Trauma is not a life sentence. The brain was changed by your trauma, and it can be changed again and transformed by the renewing of your mind, which is a beautiful phrase from the Bible that I love, right? Somatic healing therapies like trauma spotting are life changing. I can promise you, because I have been there. I have done this. I tried to quit the corporate world. I tried to start my own business. I tried to put myself out there, and I felt that crippling anxiety, the all eyes on me. They don't like me. They're going to say horrible things, the tripping over my words, the forgetting of the things I wanted to say, all because my nervous system and my subconscious brain did not believe it was safe, right? The monkey mind is not able to solve your problems because the body keeps the score. We cannot solve the problem from our brain, right? Trauma is held in the body. The brain does not want you to see those wounds because it causes you pain. So it will cause you to look away from them. And it doesn't want you to see those subconscious patterns, which are in your blind spot anyways. So that's why we have to work with a compassionate witness and be in the body, go into the body and close those open trauma loops, right? This desensitizes the triggers. It calms the nervous system. It reprograms the subconscious brain so that we can finally break free from our blocks. This is how we step into our purpose. This is how we create a business and a life that we dream of, and finally start to experience true freedom. Mind, body, soul alignment is true freedom, right? We have to have that alignment in order to achieve it. So the choice is yours. Now that you know better, will you do better, right? Who do you want to be? Do you want to remain that hidden seeker that plays small and is hijacked by a highly sensitized nervous system and an overactive fear center? Or are you finally ready to be the shining light worker that you were made to be, with unshakable confidence and a body who is driving towards the same goals as your soul, right? Finally feeling alive and thriving, right? Not just surviving, but thriving, right? Able to tap into your dreams and desires, able to know who you authentically are, able to separate yourself from the trauma demon and the rumination, right? Finally free and thriving, living the life that you would be happy to be living, no longer wanting to escape or go home, because you finally feel at home in your body, in the life that you chose to incarnate into, right? Finally loving the present moment and being fully present, fully loved and connected in every possible way. That feeling of home that you've been searching for, you finally have access to it. This is how you find it. Somatic healing therapies like trauma spotting are the way through to heal your body, heal your mind, step into your purpose, manifest abundance, right? If you're ready to claim who you are made to be, then sign up for a trauma spotting session today. There's links in the bio or description, depends on your platform. Everything you need is below. Otherwise, just reach out. I'm here for you. My purpose is your purpose. Trauma is not a life sentence. And this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Healing. It's amazing. It's awesome to understand this, because now that you're on the other side of it, you'll finally get excited when you're triggered and say, aha, I know where I need to go. I know the next problem I need to solve. All right, I need to go. This is a long one. It's about to start storming, so it's perfect timing. I love you, my friends. Please let me know if you have any questions. I know I just kind of gave you a lot, but I want people to understand this is what we're dealing with. And these things are not normal. Well, The Myth of Normal. I love the name of that book, right? No one's normal. More so, you don't have to live with these behaviors. You don't have to live with a body that hijacks you, or a nervous system or a limbic system that hijacks you. You can finally end the battle of the brains and start to move all in one direction, all of your energy driving towards your goals with no resistance, no more battle of the brains. All right. I love you, excuse me. I love you, my friends. I will see you on the next video. Namaste.